Now, Neil Davidson, a sociology lecturer at Glasgow University, joins us on Skype from Scotland. Thank you very much for joining us, Neil. The new powers given to Scotland will make them the third most powerful devolved parliament in the world. Now, will this significantly help Scotland's economy, or is this merely a move to quieten down nationalist surge?
I think it's more like the second point. In fact, Scotland already was one of the most powerful devolved parliaments in the world before the powers were handed to it, and they don't increase it by a tremendously significant amount. They're not even actually the powers that were promised by the Smith Commission when they produced the report a couple of months ago, and certainly aren't anything like the level of power that was promised in the vow that was made by the political parties at the time of the referendum. So there's a degree of, I think, exaggeration of what this is doing from David Cameron and from the British government. In particular, the question about tax. The Scottish government can now raise tax that was previously raised by the British government, but doesn't increase it to any significant degree. So it now has a responsibility for doing it, which is fine, but it isn't actually, its powers to raise it, to vary levels and so on, are actually not significantly greater than they were before. And it doesn't touch things like corporation tax, inheritance tax, capital gains tax. All of that remains with Westminster. So even with the power of raising money, this is actually much less than Cameron was suggesting in the clip you just paid.
Now, after May's general elections, Neil, do you think Scotland's position will be as strong, or will this all depend on the results?
Oh, I think the pressure for more powers will actually increase after May. I think there's some exaggeration about how well the SNP are going to do in the elections in May, but nevertheless they will do well, and I think that will put pressure on for further powers. The particular area I think people are concerned about is in terms of social security and welfare, where certain powers have been promised to the Scottish Parliament, but they have to be approved by the British government, which means there's always the possibility of a veto being imposed on any changes that the Scottish government might wish to make, for example, over abolishing the bedroom tax or something like that. And I think this is what's concerning people, that there seems to be a kind of a clause which allows the British government to actually stop the Scottish government doing things when it comes to the actual point of producing new laws. But I think that the more support the SNP has, the more difficult it will be for the British government to actually resist the pressure for more powers.
Now, this does indicate, Neil, that there is a historic change in British and Scottish politics after the referendum. Did the SNP expect this, or were they hoping for more?
Well, they were hoping for. I think they were expecting something like this. I mean, there was always a degree of scepticism from the SNP about how many powers would actually be devolved after the final stages of the referendum. They argued with a degree of cynicism that this was simply, the so-called vow was simply a thing that was being done to get people to vote no in the referendum, and then when the new powers are produced, they would actually be fairly limited, which seems to be the case, at least with this initial batch. So the situation afterwards, I think, will be that you're getting into a situation where the British government is talking about, the coalition government is talking about the so-called English votes for English laws, which will begin to fragment the political system in Britain still further. And I don't think anyone can see where that's going to end up. That certainly it produces a kind of almost quasi-federal situation without anyone really planning it, which is a major change in British government.
Now, we're just going to have to leave it there. That was Neil Davidson, sociology lecturer at Glasgow University. Thank you very much for your time.